Welcome back everyone, it's Haz here again with another summary of the most recent dev talk from Standing Stone Games, just like the last time. If you've missed it, yesterday the lead designer of Lord of the Rings Online, Orion, held another episode of There and Back Again, talking about the development of LotRO, sharing some studio details and also answering some fan questions. Now let's get into it and keep it short. To start off with some of the more general statements, Orion stated this year there's been a lot of difficulties for the studio in the background, and even said, quote, "This year was a recovery year for us." Personally, he felt quite bad regarding the delays of the 2024 roadmap and not being able to achieve everything on it, but as he said, reality just set in. To avoid this issue in the future, he was thinking about giving quarterly updates to the players, where they are, where development is, to keep us more updated. That might be a better approach, but there could be both a roadmap and a quarterly update for best results. As an update to previous news I shared, he did mention at some point in the stream that a bigger quality of life centered update will be coming to the Lord of the Rings Online. I think this is for next year, that will introduce some fixes and revisions for some of the bothersome elements of the game. He specifically highlighted that one UI element will get a big upgrade to make it more readable. So from that wording, I'm imagining we might be getting a new map. That's exciting. With that said, he did say something along the lines of not having the resources and manpower currently to do a full UI revamp. That was somewhat hinted at before, and instead they are going to update parts of the UI piece by piece. At the moment there's no mention of a 4K compatibility, but I did ask about clarification on that on the forums. Lastly, for the general section, they are at the final stages of getting everything done for the Legacy of Morgoth expansion. They are very excited for it, and also the Valor packs for those who purchase the expansion will arrive as soon as they are ready, so stay tuned. Very briefly in this short section, the Elf Avatar refresh is available on the Bull Roarer, but there's news regarding High Elves. Orion said they're going to be updated after the elves are completed and are still a high priority on the lists. Technically, they're a different entity/rig and need separate attention from the elves. So high elf players can rejoice as you're not forgotten, but still have to wait. There was a considerably detailed section for kinships on the stream, and they were heavily connected with the previously announced downscaling system that would allow you to journey on a lower level and play with lower level players. He said they bumped into some roadblock during the development of it. It is still coming, but they also realized and had internal talks that this downscaling system will be very much tied to the kinships and potentially to their kinship rework, and maybe it is best to first finish that project first to have the greatest impact. He specifically mentioned that they would really like these new systems to help kinships who struggle with keeping players there who are in different stages of the game, at endgame raids or being a newer player. And with the new system, they would have common goals they can work towards in a kinship. More about this at a later date. In this chapter, I combined everything regarding classes and monster play. Orion said there is constant effort from the studio to refresh all the classes and their gameplay, to give them different roles, but also to at least make sure all of them have a viable damaging role to be able to tackle content alone. He said there's not going to be a major update this year for classes, nor in the very first update of 2025. This means the next 2 official updates, but after that they will likely continue the class reworks, starting with Hunter, then Burglar, and then Champion. For those who are heavily invested in raiding and endgame, Orion did answer a question regarding endgame balance, that they are looking at class balance in the context of the new raid. And if we're talking about raids, they let the cat out of the bag and shared the next raid will have 6 bosses for 3 wings. They're really excited about this one and have a bunch of new things we can look forward to, thanks to new faces also joining the team, which is really awesome to hear, I think. Monster play will also get more adjustments hopefully next year. Unfortunately, it is quite a niche part of Lord of the Rings Online, and there's simply not enough resources to get monster play where Orion wants it to be, and as such it usually gets in the background, but there are many plans for creeps. It was mentioned that next year there might be another creep award track next to the legendary item track, while also allowing players to earn previous track rewards, but that's not sure yet. Then, of course, there was a major section where Orion talked about the legendary servers Angmar and Mordor. As shared before, the new 64-bit architecture proved to be very solid as the dev team expected. They are still constantly fixing and optimizing the servers, that's done on the back end. They're just not sharing them as they are very technical in terms and also wording. The 64-bit servers will eventually arrive for the classic worlds, but I felt from his answer that they aren't really ready to talk about this just yet. The Veil of the Nine and the Ring Raids feature on the legendary servers are also received really well in Orion's view, but there is a major rework coming soon for the Nine that will replace the landscape layers that cause so much lag and issues, and instead the Nine will spawn into a separate special instance that players can join, which should address most of the complaints. Orion also mentioned the same details regarding the release of Mines of Moria expansion. It will arrive after the Legacy of Morgoth expansion, but before the end of the year, so the December 4th date from Cordovan checks out. There are two things to talk about Moria. One is that lesser raids would likely not follow the player into the mountain, so they're going to introduce something different and special that we will have to deal with in there, but Orion was still very mysterious about this one. Then the other thing was the difficulty of the expansion, where he went into more details, saying, numbers are being adjusted to match the level band and strength of players versus monsters. They are not saying that it will be perfect, but it should be better than it is at the current level 50 band. There will be some measure of adjustment to the endgame content that is inside of Moria, not a complete restructure like introducing tiers for them. The developers will take time to balance them and make the gear relevant in them, and Moria should be more indicative of how it was when it originally came out. Regarding future expansions, they do not have a fixed roadmap for them, and instead they will decide individually how to handle the expansions, whether they should be longer or shorter, or what changes should be introduced at the time. And I felt specific hints towards Rohan here. There was a question regarding mounted combat, where he answered if they were to change it, they would have to rework it completely, so it's not an easy task to get to, probably best to ask them again when we get closer. These were the major topics, at least from my point of view, and also trying to keep this video short and concise, but there were a few other smaller sections worth noting. There are no plans at the moment for a Rivendell housing, but they know housing is a big part of Lord of the Rings Online and will introduce more furnitures and even add some to the store as there's demand for it. Further adventures from the roadmap will also continue, they are not forgotten, and maybe even new characters will be introduced to them from the Legacy of Morgoth expansion. Finally, crafting will also get more quality of life, but they bumped into heavy roadblocks. Orion would really love, for example, to give us the ability to track multiple nodes. So that was the last episode summary of There and Back Again with Orion. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned some new things or just heard updates regarding aspects of the game that you're interested in or love. If I left out anything really important, just like last time, please note it under this video to share it with others. If you watched the whole video, please comment Orion to let me know, but also to give him a shout out. I really appreciate these kinds of developer updates, and hopefully they will continue with the tradition. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more of it in the future. That's it for today, and I'll see you all the next time.